They told us Ozzy Osbourne died of old age and illness. But that's only part of the story. What if the truth about his final days was hidden, even from his family? Because today, a doctor who was with Ozzy in his final hours has broken his silence. And what he reveals doesn't just rewrite Ozzy's story, it shakes the entire rock world to its core. Ozzy Osbourne was never supposed to be ordinary. From the moment he bit the head off a bat to the final bow he took from the stage, he lived as a myth. But behind every headline, every strange antic, and every triumphant comeback, something darker was brewing. And when the news broke, Ozzy Osbourne dead at 76, the world mourned. But one man didn't just mourn. He knew. He saw what others didn't. That man was a senior attending physician at the Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles. Known only as Dr. Key, he had overseen dozens of celebrity cases, but this one haunted him. When Ozzy was rushed into the ICU for what the public believed was pneumonia-related complications, Dr. K immediately saw something was off. Ozzy's vitals didn't match someone battling a typical illness. His oxygen levels were inconsistent. His heart rate spiked and dipped without explanation. But most disturbing of all, Ozzy was conscious, alert, and scared. Not the kind of scared a dying man usually shows. This was different, like he knew something no one else did. Dr. K asked Sharon to leave the room for a moment. That's when Ozzy reportedly looked him straight in the eye and whispered, "Don't let them lie about this." The next day, the tabloids published their pre-written eulogies. Prince of Darkness dies of natural causes. Osbourne's final curtain call. But nothing in the official autopsy lined up with what Dr. K had witnessed. And as more data rolled in, one truth became inescapable. Ozzy's death wasn't random. It wasn't peaceful. And it wasn't entirely natural. The press had prepared for this moment. Ozzy's health had been failing publicly for years. Parkinson's, spinal surgeries, infections. But none of those were listed as direct causes of death. In fact, the initial death certificate was left open-ended, pending further toxicology. Yet weeks passed. No updates. No report. Only silence. What was being covered up? Dr. K had access to all the files. He reviewed them obsessively, retracing Ozzy's last 72 hours. The irregularities kept piling up. And then there was the CCTV footage. Or rather, the missing footage. For exactly 11 minutes before Ozzy flatlined, the security feed went dark. Power surge, they claimed. But no other system on the floor experienced one. Someone didn't just want Ozzy to die in peace. They wanted him to die in silence. For decades, Ozzy had been the poster child for self-destruction. The drugs, the booze, the near-death experiences, he outlived them all. But it wasn't just luck. Behind the wild man persona was a highly medicated, highly monitored rock icon whose life was sustained by some of the most advanced private healthcare money could buy. Sharon made sure of that. Every time Ozzy stumbled, she picked him up. Every time his demons dragged him down, she negotiated another comeback, another farewell tour, another chance to stay immortal. But in the final few months, something changed. According to one close family aide, Sharon stopped asking questions. She started distancing herself from the medical briefings. Ozzy's daily routine became more automated, scheduled, cold. Some began to suspect she knew what was coming and didn't want to fight it anymore. But was that neglect? Or something more calculated? Because here's where the story takes a darker, stranger turn. Ozzy had a clause in his will, not an ordinary one. A locked clause that only activated upon review by a third-party physician. Not Sharon, not his kids, not his bandmates. And what that clause said sent shivers down Dr. Key's spine. If my death occurs while under institutional care, and is not caused by natural, observable illness, a full private investigation must be ordered by a physician of sound standing, independent of Osbourne Enterprises. Ozzy knew something was coming. That clause should set off alarms. But it didn't. Why? Because no one outside the hospital ever saw it. Dr. K filed the notification paperwork as required, but less than 24 hours later, he was removed from the case. Another doctor was brought in. A man with ties to a pharmaceutical firm Ozzy had sued back in 2016 for mislabeling medication. A man whose entire record had mysteriously vanished from public databases. And the new attending's first action? To sign off on the original cause of death. Respiratory failure due to chronic illness. No autopsy. No toxicology. Case closed. But Dr. K didn't forget. He couldn't. He began contacting journalists, private investigators, and former assistants of the Osbourne family. Most declined to speak. Some hinted they were under NDAs. One even said, "You don't mess with what Sharon protects." Then came the audio file. A grainy 47-second voice memo from Ozzy, recorded just 5 days before he was hospitalized. It was never released publicly, but it had been sent to a private email address Dr. K used for whistleblowing in past medical corruption cases. The message began with heavy breathing, and then, in Ozzy's unmistakable slurred drawl, "They say I've got weeks, but I feel fine. And if anything happens, mate, know this. It wasn't just time. I'm clean. Been clean. They promised me this treatment would help, but now I'm feeling worse. I think I messed up trusting them again." The metadata confirmed it, sent from a secure iPhone location inside Osbourne Manor, just before the house nurse called the ambulance. What was the treatment Ozzy referred to? Who promised it to him? And why did he regret it in his final days? As the public grieved and tributes poured in from rock royalty, one man knew the story wasn't over. We follow the paper trail, one that leads from a secret medical lab in Beverly Hills to a powerful name Ozzy never trusted, even at the height of his fame. If you thought the headlines told you everything, you haven't heard what Ozzy tried to say before it was too late. Dr. K couldn't let it go. Not after hearing Ozzy's final voice message. Not after being removed from the case. And certainly not after watching the world blindly accept a story that didn't match the facts. Something was deeply wrong. And he now had one goal: follow the trail wherever it led. He began by analyzing Ozzy's last known treatments, everything from pain management to Parkinson's protocols. None of them, he discovered, should have caused the erratic symptoms Ozzy had in his final 72 hours. That left only one possibility: experimental intervention. Buried deep in Ozzy's private medical chart, so deep it took digital forensics to find it, was a flagged entry marked only as Project Orion. No explanation. No attending physician listed. Just one date and a vague reference. Administered per private authorization. See Executive Consent Form #9912. That form was signed, not by Ozzy, not by Sharon, but by a corporate entity known as Neurocore Biomedical Holdings. And here's where the story starts to unravel in ways no fan ever expected. Neurocore wasn't just a biotech firm. It was a shadow operation tied to celebrity rehabilitation, enhancement therapy, and non-FDA-approved treatments, mostly marketed to billionaires and aging stars desperate to preserve youth and performance. It operated on the edge of legality, constantly under investigation, but never shut down. And Ozzy? He had a documented history of rejecting biohacking. In multiple interviews over the last decade, he mocked the idea of stem cells, brain implants, or advanced rejuvenation tech. He once told Rolling Stone, "I survived bat blood and heroin. I don't need Elon Musk in my veins." So why was a company like Neurocore involved in his final treatment? Dr. K reached out to a former nurse who briefly worked inside Osbourne Manor. She agreed to meet, Only if the conversation was off the record and her name was never used. What she told him shattered everything. In her words, there was something going on behind closed doors. A man came every 2 weeks. Not a doctor, not a friend, just cold. Scientific. He carried a silver case. No one was allowed in the room while he worked with Ozzy. Not even And when asked what the man was doing, she said only one word: injections. Ozzy Osbourne was more than a rock star. He was a brand. And behind that brand was a billion-dollar empire. Albums, TV shows, merchandise, licensing deals, virtual tours, legacy contracts. But if Ozzy had become mentally or physically incapacitated, much of that empire could have crumbled fast. Some began to speculate that Project Orion wasn't about saving Ozzy's life. It was about extending his image, buying time, stabilizing him just long enough to squeeze out one more tour, one more album, one more deal. The more Dr. K dug into Neurocore, the more disturbing it became. The company had partnered with an elite Beverly Hills clinic known as Novavita Labs, a facility that didn't advertise, didn't take insurance, and operated on word-of-mouth referrals from the ultra-wealthy. And according to confidential patient records leaked years ago, Novavita specialized in one thing: experimental cognitive and neuroskeletal enhancement. Treatments banned by the FDA. Treatments that, in rare cases, had shown one common side effect: catastrophic immune failure within weeks of administration. Now the pieces were falling into place. Ozzy's sudden decline, his bizarre symptoms, the missing nurse logs, the IVs with no explanation. Dr. K obtained a shipment invoice from Novavita Labs that listed Compound 7 delivered to a private residence in Hancock Park under the codename Monarch. That was Ozzy's known alias used for hotel check-ins. The delivery date? 2 weeks before Ozzy was hospitalized. Ozzy had undergone a final procedure. Something kept entirely off the books. Something meant to stabilize him, or replicate him. Because here's the twist. Novavita had ties to AI vocal replication and movement mapping technology. They weren't just experimenting on bodies. They were duplicating personalities, memory banks, stage presence, behavior. What if Ozzy wasn't just a patient, but a prototype? Everything changed when Dr. K received an anonymous USB drive. No note, no return address, just one file. A 6-minute internal memo from Novavita's chief medical director discussing an unexpected failure of Subject Monarch due to non-compliance and neurological resistance. The voice in the file was clear. We advised Osbourne's team that his body may not respond to full-stage neural mapping due to prior chemical history. We stressed that pushing or 7 would risk systemic collapse. They ignored our warnings. The subject coded on day 12. Ozzy didn't die naturally. He died because of this treatment. Even worse, they may have known it would happen. And yet, the public was told none of it. His fans grieved. His children mourned. Sharon released a beautiful yet vague tribute, but none of them addressed the procedure that ultimately triggered his death. Because if the world knew that their icon had spent his final days in a private lab being mapped, injected, and monitored for a technology not even approved for animals, there would be outrage. Lawsuits. Day 3. Collapse. Day 1. One fan site, obscure and barely visited, noticed something odd in Ozzy's last live video just days before his hospitalization. His pupils were dilated. His speech was robotic. His left hand trembled with a pattern, not random, but rhythmic, as if following a signal. Fans chalked it up to Parkinson's. But one neurosurgeon on Reddit posted a now-deleted comment. That's not Parkinson's. That's biometric feedback loss. I've seen that in patients receiving failed neural injections. Which begs the question, was Ozzy even fully there in those final appearances? This wasn't just about a rock legend passing away. This was about a man who may have been turned into a human experiment without full consent. A man whose voice, body, and legacy were being stretched beyond human limits by people more interested in profit than peace. But one name hasn't come up yet, and it's the name Dr. K feared the most. A former manager, a hidden investor in Neurocore, a man Ozzy once called the devil in disguise. 3 weeks after Ozzy's death, a beta invite was leaked to a select group of music industry insiders. The subject? The Ozzy Experience, a virtual concert simulation featuring voice-accurate performances, AI-powered stage banter, deepfake video integration, and neural memory scripting drawn from over 1,200 interviews and performances. The timing wasn't a coincidence. The planning had been in motion long before Ozzy passed, which means someone knew. Someone had prepared for his departure. They didn't just mourn his loss. They monetized it. And here's the gut punch ending. The final asset in the Neurocore data archive is labeled Monarch Backup Aeone, a full digital copy of Ozzy Osbourne's voice model, personality profile, and reaction patterns. Ozzy didn't just die. They cloned his legacy before his body went cold. What happens when artists become products? Literally. When death is no longer an ending, but a launch pad. And what will future generations remember? The real man behind the mic, or the machine that replaced him? Dr. K's files have since been confiscated. His license was suspended pending ethics violations. But before he went silent, he left this message. Ozzy trusted the wrong people. He thought he had time. But they weren't watching the clock. They were watching the data. And to those who still grieve, this isn't the end of Ozzy's story. It's the beginning of a war over memory, ownership, and identity.